Lepa hvala, Dušan. Hvala vsem prisotnim, da ste prišli nazaj iz morja. Jaz bom zdaj v nadaljevanju govorila v angleščini.
Može.
As Dušan told you, I'm an ethnologist, I'm a philosopher, and I'm working currently at Faculty of Arts, partially, at the Department of Ethnology and Cultural Anthropology. And mostly I work at Faculty of Chemistry and Chemical Technology. How could it be to work there as ethnologist? I got a big project on heritage and smells, which is very unusual even for us in Slovenia, and I believe also everywhere else in the former Yugoslavia and also wider in Europe. So this is a project titled Intangible Cultural Smells and Intangible Cultural Heritage. And I must admit that I worked before at another project, also connected with smells and cultural heritage at the same faculty. So it was a great luck to obtain this object, which is huge even in Slovenian, for Slovenian standards. I got 1.5 million euros to lead this project. And currently we are 22 employers, at this project. Mostly we are ethnologists, historians, cultural anthropologists, but of course also chemists, artists, yeah, and that's it. No, that's not. And then medical doctors and computer science scientists. So what do we do? What do we do actually? We are trying to actually fix the idea of olfactory heritage, which is an aspect of heritage that is related to smells. The smells that are meaningful to a community because they are related to important places, to important objects, traditions, and therefore they are part of our cultural legacy. So this is a new field. It exists as such under the term olfactory heritage since maybe last 5 years. But before, from 1980s and 1990s of previous century, our colleagues, anthropologists from Canada, who started this idea that smells are also important for heritage, and that we know nothing practically about smells, and that we should explore these wide areas. So at that time we started to, let's say, to have this field officially. So now, if we talk about olfactory objects and museums, maybe for some it is difficult to imagine what it could be. How can we smell objects in the museum when we can't even touch them? In most of the museums, it's prohibited to go even near to some objects because there are physical barriers between us and the objects. But what we consider as olfactory objects are objects that emit odors. For example, there are some wooden objects or objects from other materials who still have some kind of smell. And I don't mean the smell of the cellars where they are kept in the museums, but I mean their smell that is related to their function. So they emit odor. And then on the other side, there are objects that contain smells. For example, we can have a bottle of perfume with a little bit of perfume in it. So that is also olfactory object. And that perfume and that bottle both are olfactory objects. besides the objects as such, we also have scented historical spaces inside and outside. I'm going to give you some examples. Spaces outside could be historical gardens, for example, in front of monasteries, in front of some castles, and scented historical spaces inside could be, for example, smoking places. We call them, for example, in Alpine region, dimnica. I don't know if this term means anything to you in Crne Gore, but this is a place made out of wood primarily, where people and animals lived together, and they were cooking in this one room and living together. So all the woods have still smell on the smoke. Later on, other parts of the buildings could be attached, but this first part where the smoke went everywhere is called dimnica. So that would be inside a scented historical space, for example. And we have some of such spaces in our museums in Slovenia. Then, of course, as ethnologists, as historians, we can talk about historical writings that are describing historical smells. They are rare, or maybe we don't have them, and we don't have the way to go inside these writings. For example, I found out that for Slovenian area, our polyhistor Janez Vajkard Valvazor from 17th century described a lot about smells of people, of places, of plants. Some flowers smelled beautifully to him. For example, he was discussing if people have bad moral qualities, they also smell bad and dirty. But if they are pure by heart, let's say, they have a pleasant smell. Then our sources could also be illustrations, paintings, photographs. How come? Where can we find the smells in illustrations? I'm going to show you some examples later, because there are some typical paintings that for which we can say that they actually describe smell through what is painted on it. And then if we talk about olfactory objects, we can also talk about scent-based museum installations. So it could be one corner in a museum where there is one olfactory object with a complete narration to museum audience, or it could be the whole museum dedicated to smells. So it is all possible, and it is possible by using certain devices that we can buy or made. Our technical staff in museums can make it, or it is possible in other interactive ways. So why is it important? Because the audience, the museum visitors, get another perspective. For example, mostly museum visitors in museums look at the objects, or maybe listen to some narrations in videos, or if there is a guide, they listen to a guide. But if they can smell the historical object, then that's a different kind of narration to them. And they will go out of the museum and they will remember this narration differently. Okay. Yeah, so this is about olfactory exhibitions, and I'm going just to tell you something that is also very interesting to me, that when we talk about smells, we can talk about our mimics and our gestures. So that's this kind of non-verbal communication we use in everyday life when we talk about smells. For example, we often see that if something smells good, we try to invite smell by doing this, with these gestures. Or when something smells terrible and disgusting, we close our nose. We don't want to smell this. Or olfactory gesture is also the gesture of a smoker who smokes cigarettes or cigars or whatever. Olfactory gesture could be also fumigating rooms, for example, in churches, when they carry censers um, to fumigate the church. Also, perfuming is kind of olfactory gesture. And all these kinds of facial expressions, how we wrinkle, how we lower our eyebrows or raise our upper lip, for example, all these kinds of gestures and mimics are important because they describe how something smells or smelled in the past. So I'm going to give you one example. So here there is a picture from 17th century from Netherlands. And why is this picture important? Because first, it is out of a cycle of 5 pictures, 5 senses. And in 17th century, it was very usual that they depicted 5 senses, and one of them was also smell. So here we see a mother or a woman who is cleaning a baby's bottom. We see a man sitting at the table who is holding his nose because it's for him a stinking situation. And in the middle, we also see another man who is laughing. It is amusing to him that something like this is happening in front of him. At the same time, while we may be we are focused on the baby and his smell, there is also something on the table, and if you look closely, it's a tobacco and it's a long pipe for smoking. So we also see maybe double standards, because I doubt that when men were smoking, somebody would close the nose because of the smell. So it's all dependent in what culture, in what time, and in what territory we are going to develop the narration of the smell. So here I made a picture of how we are interdisciplinary connected. As I said before, ethnologists, sensory geographers, what does it mean? We can, for example, go through the market in a city and invite people to just describe smells. And they would, for example, pass the marketplace and they would sense the smell of bakery, the smell of meat shop, the smell of vegetables, the smell of fruits, and so on. So different parts of the city also have different smells, and there are techniques that we use to describe these smells that are still present. Then archaeology also. Of course, there are a lot of objects in any museums that are related to hygiene, to beauty products, to also perfumes, and we can't skip these old eras of our common history. Then heritage science and conservation are important because with the help of chemists, we can detect if an object has a smell, what kind of smell, if it's organic compound, if it's inorganic compound, that's mostly not possible to detect, but organic smells are possible to detect. And they also can perform other kinds of analysis on objects which do not harm the object itself, because they don't take any part of museum object away. They just uh, they just collect the smell from the object. That's different kind of techniques. Then computer science, what do? They could go through all our databases we have that exist in our libraries, museums, galleries, etc. And they could search through these bases and search for example, for old terms of smells, for specific terms of smells, for concentration of certain term that is used, and so on. Medicine. How is this helpful? We just survived, thank God, a period of several years of COVID, and a lot of people lost their sense of smell, or their sense of smell is damaged. And medical doctors help to get sense of smell back, because living without the sense of smell is not a quality living, or living with a disturbed sense of smell, like a lot of people had after COVID, also affects our quality of living. Um, and also they have some diagnostic tools to see how deep is the sense of smell of a person who comes to a doctor. Yeah, then we have also artists. We can invite artists to recreate a smell. For example, if we have an old recipe for an object, let's say gloves that were perfumed in 17th century, they can recreate a smell that is near to that recipe, because we don't really know how, for example, a glove made of goat skin smelled, but we can go near with these recreations. And then we have law. There is a lot of regulation talking about smells, but none on the field of heritage or museums. All of this regulation is related to the environment, so pollution from the environment, let's say, and to the smells related to food products, either wine or food products themselves. Then there is a question: is smell tangible or is smell intangible? If I ask a chemist, he would say a smell is tangible because smell is a molecule in the air. If I ask an ethnologist would say smell is intangible because we are talking about stories, we are talking about rituals, cultural traditions, we are talking about memories, we are talking about the knowledge, how people talked about smell in the past. We are talking about social significance and meanings. What does it mean, social significance and meanings of smell? For example, there are some social groups that are stigmatized because of their smell. Uh, Jews in the past were stigmatized. Black people were stigmatized. Um, um, uh, Gypsy people were stigmatized, and so on. And then there are also other groups of people, like women. Poor women were stigmatized. Not women from upper classes. No, they smelled good, even if they didn't. But women from lower classes, they smelled bad, and so on. So here is another picture I made. Well, I talked to a lot of museum workers 2 years ago, and I asked them how are they um, paying attention to smells, and what kind of objects do they have that are related to smells. And they told me that they have certain objects that they are related to smells, for example, from cosmetics, folk medicine, pharmacy, clothing, religious objects like sensors, as I said before, then paintings and crafts, and beekeeping also, kitchen, and so on, industrial heritage, of course. And then they also talked about scented interiors and exteriors, as I said, written documents. They also told me what narratives do they use, even if we don't have any strategy to use smells in the museums. They just do it by common sense. So they just narrate to museum visitors about the smells of certain things in the past. And of course, there is a commercial part of it also related to the museum. Some museums also sell um, some souvenirs that are related to smells. So let's go fast through some pictures. So here you have, so for example, fragrance objects from let's say archaeological collections and 20th century collections. Then we have something that probably we still all remember because it's not so far away, that we used this kind of product. So this is a soap of Maribor's factory Henkel, and it was very well known in former Yugoslavia. So Zlatorog Milo, Tapun. Then we have the example of olfactory objects from medicine and from pharmacy, for example. We have examples of olfactory objects that are related to religion. So, for example, the object in the middle is from the 19th century of one Slovenian missionary, and it contains oils, which with this oil he actually lived among Indians and persuaded them to become Christians. So let's go to these allegories of smell. I said that pictures tell a lot of stories, but we have to know how to read them. So here is one picture from Celje Regional Museum in Slovenia. We see a smoker. There is a lot of food on the table in front of him. The food that we associate with smells, so like birds that he probably killed, then fruits in front of him, lemons and so on, bread, probably wine. And at the back, we can see the scene from his window view. So we can also relate this scene with the smells. So there is another painting from National Museum in Ljubljana. We see four figures here, one child who is smelling a rose, three adults also smelling roses and discussing, also from 17th century and also from the collection of 5 cents. We have painted ceilings. So this is from Brežice Castle in Slovenia. It's on close to the border of Croatia. And in this castle today is Posavje Regional Museum. And this ceiling painted with these figures actually depicts two angels on the top, on the left, that are smelling something. If you can see here, well, I don't know if I point it and if you see my pointer, but these two angels are smelling something. Then we have museums related to crafts that are typical for some regions. So this is a picture from Ribnica Museum in Slovenia, where pottery and wooden crafts are the most common, and the clay and the wood have smells. And here we have a pottery maker who says, actually, if I translate, so that's actually a little video, a short video with a pottery maker, and he invites the audience saying, if you are in mood, come closer and check if the clay smells good to you. So come and try to do something with the clay, and while you're going to do it, you're going to smell it, and so on. So this is actually how they use natural smells in the museum. They wanted to use first artificial smells of wood, but I said, no, you can use just simple wood and explain things. And when this wood will have no smell, just change it, because you are in the area where there are a lot of wood, you know. Why buy artificial smells? And then here, picture from the same museum with children experimenting and smelling. And then we have examples of olfactory objects related to technical heritage. So this is from a steel work in Ravne in Slovenia. You see here a big room with a lot of big machines, let's say, and they are all looking very dirty, and they still have their own industrial smell, let's say. Yes, Dusan, I know you're trying to say that I must conclude, and I will soon. I just wanted to say with this picture that we had a flood in 2 years ago, and this museum was flooded. 1/2 meter of mud was there, and they had to clean the dirt out. And now the smell of this museum is different. So there is not so much industrial smell as it was 3 years ago. So we can see here also a picture of open air museum in Rogatec. So a toilet, which is an amusement for all the children, because they are not used to use such kind of toilets. And also you can see besides there is a pit of manure also that smells bad. So then here we see this Dimnica house that I explained before, from outside and from inside. Um, and we can see also the garden with aromatic herbs in front of this Dimnica. We can see reconstructions of other objects that were used in the past, from the 19th century. And then we have a lot of fragrant souvenirs in forms of soaps, usually, that depict our sweets. For example, on the left is gibanica. I don't know if that means something to you, but gibanica is very popular dish here in Slovenia. We see also here a mosaic soap from a museum that is mostly related to our archaeological heritage. And we see some other soaps with pictures of gemas, also archaeology. And we have, for example, Jubilee coffees like Plečnikova kava, named by architect Plečnik. We had a Jubilee several years ago, and this is a well sold object in museum shops. So with this, I would
sorry for interrupting you. Just to ask, how much slides do you have? Because we are, I think, using around 20-25 minutes of your presentation, maybe some.
Yes, this is the last slide. I just wanted to say this is the last slide.
So sorry, I'm so embarrassed now.
No, you don't need to be.
we want to ask you something. That's why I interrupted.
Yeah, because I probably looked that I just got warmed after introduction, but this is actually my last slide. And this is actually what I wanted to say, that in ethnology, we often use a method while we are talking to people, that we ask them, do you have any pictures from the past that describe this or that event? And then people would bring us boxes of their pictures, family albums or whatever, and they would actually try to tell us how the life was in the past. But we can use the same techniques as with albums and boxes of pictures, also with smells. We can ask them, do you remember how this object or this place smelled like? So they would try to remember the smell. And we can also, and I would like to just point one thing, that sometimes when people smell something that is familiar to them and try to narrate and remember how it was in the past, we call it the Proust effect, from the novel of the French writer Proust. You probably all know what it is about. It is about the smell of tea and the smell of cake. And when he was smelling this, he remembered how it was when he was a baby or younger boy. and how it was when he was living with his relatives on the countryside. So I just wanted to point out that we can use it in ethnology as a method to actually invite people to tell us more about history. And with this, of course, I conclude. I thank you all for your patience, for listening to me. I don't know if I was loud enough, if you saw what I supposed to show, but I hope that you got an idea that it is an unexplored field, and as ethnologists, we have a lot of opportunities here to work with smells in museums and also while we are conducting our field work. So thank you very much, and thank you, Dusan, for inviting me.